Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name is Margaret Pinard. Da-da-da! And you're on BookTube. We've got a book tag today. We're returning to the ancient art of Tag Tuesday. So that's what we have for you today, which is super fun. I just wanted to say hi to everyone in the chat. Shannon and RC. Yay. All right. I was tagged by a channel called Novel iDeea, and that is a person named Deea. So she did a pun, which is always my favorite. And it's like a build-a-tag. It started out with a certain number of questions, and then each person who's done the tag has added a question on or two. So this is going to be a fun way to take a tour through some other BookTube channels. Should be good. Hi, Anita. Hi, JC. Welcome, welcome. Happy Tuesday. Happy Giving Tuesday. So let me put that up, take that down, and we'll start. I did banners today. I had extra time. So we've got banners instead of chapters. All right, so and you can find the links to MJ, who started this tag and champions small BookTube channels, and Novel iDeea in the description down below. So feel free to check them out and subscribe if you so desire. So the first question we have on this is, do you strive to read every day? If yes, do you do anything different or special to make time within your day? If so, if no, why not? Cursor was in the way. No, I do not strive to read every day. It just happens. Strive indicates like you really try. You set a deadline, you set a goal, you read so many pages, you guard your time. And I would describe it more as I feel compelled to read every day. So let's see. I did answers before this because there's a lot of questions, so I prepared a little bit. It can be as natural as finding a centered space in which to absorb a certain type of message. So if you're reading a heavy book, a challenging book, which comes in later, it can be like feeling that mood and then going for that book, or listening to a distinct type of voice or relief after a complex, focused task of long duration. So if you've been working at something and focused really hard, sometimes you need a break and then you have a certain type of read, right? So I use reading almost every day to address a lot of these different needs. So no, but yes. We're off to a great muddled start. Aren't you glad? Aren't you glad? Yeah. Shannon says, this question assumes that striving to read every day is the only thing to do. I strive to read regularly, but I don't put pressure on myself to read every day. There you go. And JC says, absolutely, I strive to read every day. Excellent. For some people, they have to make it a priority. For some people, it's supplementary. It sort of helps the other priorities, and that's the camp that I fall in. So, yeah, interesting. Question number 2. Do you always stay within your favorite genres, or do you experiment with reading different genres and subgenres? I should have started this out with my typical intro, which is, hi, I'm Margaret Pinard, a historical fiction writer and eclectic reader. So that should give you the answer to that. Maybe. So my personal rules are turning out to be a whole muddle. Obviously, if you know me, you expected this. But I do read a lot of different genres and subgenres. But yeah, I guess I rarely go out of the ones that I like, because there are so many to rotate around, you know? So if this is like, if you have a big friend group and you're always trying to schedule time with different friends and keep up the relationships, you're not going out looking for new friends because you value the relationship you have with the friends that you've made. Is that a good metaphor, or does that not fit? I didn't think that one through beforehand. But anyway, so a lot of celebrity biography does not interest me. A lot of horror and some types of sci-fi do not interest me. And, every once in a while, I'll step over the line like I did with Red Mars with Chrissy. And we saw what happened with that. It was delightful, not because I loved the genre, but because I struggled through it with a friend, and we both ended up bagging on this book in a delightfully fun live show. So maybe if I remember, I'll pop that up, because that's a classic of the buddy read genre on my channel. So yeah, that's sort of I read a lot and widely already, so I feel like trying to push the boundaries of that, maybe I'm being inflexible. I don't know. Oh, I'm going to be hopping back and forth, I can tell. Oh, okay, so JC says, I don't feel right if I don't read every day. Yeah, it's like a correcting mechanism for me. It's a comfort, ergonomic setup for my life, maybe. Shannon says, not always about genres, but I like being a part of groups that push me to read outside my genre. There you go. Nice. That said, I prefer to read fantasy, sci-fi, and romance. There you go. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with knowing what you like and sort of sticking with it, because there's going to be lots of variation within those and lots of distinct voices within those that you can also seek out. So I like it. Oh, and Shannon's saying the Tuber book club is good for this one. I would never have tried Kent Sean's Blind Spot or Bethany Votah's Tracker. Yay! So that's a shout out to Books by Adrian, Books with Adrian. Oh, I forgot the preposition. Who has a channel where he's running a book club to read other booktubers, author tubers books, which is great. And I heard a rumor I may be in line for that one. That's all right. We've been in polls many times and never been chosen, so it's okay. It's all right. I'll keep my expectations low. And Shannon says she's glad she's read those now. Yay! JC says, I will read other genres, but I prefer sticking to the ones that excite me the most, like mystery, historical anything, and contemporary fiction. Yay! JC is going for my heart there. Hello, Rachel, RK Stumbling Bear. Question 2, I don't purposely try to stay with my favorite genres, but I read them faster, so I read more of them. Oh, that's a good point. Your liking or your predilection or your ease or familiarity with the genre will affect your reading speed. So yeah, interesting. Unfortunately, that didn't get you through Spareman fast enough. Is that the one that you had to return to the library recently and you're like, no? But yeah, that's a great point, Rachel. Thank you. JC says, every now and then I like some fantasy thrown in there, paranormal. It's hard to say no when Esther and Tiffany are coming with such great stories, right? I get this. I get this, definitely. Anita says, I already read multiple genres, so it depends on how the mood hits. Yeah. Anita already reads and writes multiple genres, just for anyone out there. If you're looking for gifts or merch. Actually, Anita has a lot of merch that's awesome that she's been putting out on Twitter. Really pretty patterns and stuff. So check that out. Yes. Oh, okay. When Women Were Dragons. You finished Spareman and reviewed that one, but When Women Were Dragons was the one that went back because it's so sought after. Yes, that's right. Yay! Hi, Angela. Welcome, welcome. We're just through question number 2 on my personal reading rules tag. So let's pop up number 3. Do you DNF? Ooh, controversy. Okay, so DNF, for anyone who doesn't know, means did not finish. So it's just a quicker way of saying that you're like, not so much, not so much. If yes, what was the last book you DNF'd and the reason why? If your answer is no, then what drives you to finish the book? And if you're curious, by the way, the people who have done this tag and added on the questions are in the description that I copied from Deea's video. So if you want to subscribe or, check out the channels that had these interesting questions, then check them out down below. They've got it listed, but I'm not doing it each time for time. So yes, I do DNF. And my last one was pretty recent. It was September. I was reading this one for Shorty September because it was a pretty thin book. It was also a book in translation because after finishing August Women in Translation month, I felt like the guys were kind of getting shafted. They don't have a Men in Translation month. So I picked this one up. It's from French. But My Wish List by Grégoire Delacour with Anthea Bell as the translator, it was magnifying my mood in September. So there's a lot of like despair and mixed up feelings and like defeatism in this book. And it was interestingly portrayed and well written, but the character, even though it was a short book, was not getting out of the situation fast enough for my personal situation. So I was like, no, we don't need this right now. It's just magnifying how I'm feeling. So that is a very specific DNF reason. Usually it's not keeping my interest. It's terribly written. It's riddled with typos. It's super dry. I mean, there's no acronym for books that you sort of put aside for a bit, but I have put aside Whose Freedom because I listened to most of it on the way home or on the drive down south. And it was good and it was really provocative and I've been thinking it over, but I'm not in the car again while I'm here with my parents. And so I'm hoping I don't forget it all when I like in a month and a half when I go back and have to listen again, because I don't think I'll get a chance to listen to a book before I head back. So let's just set aside. So maybe we need an acronym for set aside for now. Seven. I don't know. Let's skip to the comments back here. Hey, Angela. Shannon says, I rarely DNF. Yeah, I'd say it's probably like 1%, 2% of my books. Storygraph might give you that stat. I can't remember. They sort of quarantine the books in your read section, but I can't remember if they give you a percentage. Rachel says, yes, she does DNF, but I typically don't mention when I do. Right. Yeah. I don't think I'm ever going to run into this French author. So it's tempered by like, yeah, if you're not into a book and it's someone you know, or you're not into a book and like you might know them or something, yeah, I definitely don't mention. JC, no, I do not DNF books. She plants her flag. If I start a book, I'm finishing it. I always feel like there's something to be learned from anything I read, even if it's what not to do. Laughing. Funny. I mean, yeah, I suppose the things that I can't learn from sometimes are plot devices or tropes that I don't jive with. And if I'm just going to get more and more frustrated, like I could just cut to the chase. Yeah, that's not something I'm going to learn from. Some come to mind, but so the tropes that you don't like that might make you DNF, those would be passes on the smash or pass. And if I remember, I will pop up the playlist for my TikTok inspired videos because we did a fun round of smash or pass panels and it was really cool to hear about people's recommendations for maybe changing your mind or maybe not. So I'll put that up there. Rachel's last DNF was Fox Hunt. The character motivations were confusing me. Oh no! Fox Hunt's the sequel to Wolfskin, right? I just put Wolfskin on my Storygraph after your review because it sounded so good. But oh, that's right. That's right. The second one was a little confusing. Okay, bummer. Hey, Jim. Jim's books, reading and stuff. Welcome. DNFing is healthy, although I rarely DNF. The last book I DNF'd, okay, that's too many times, was The Black Book by Orhan Pamuk. I just couldn't get into it. I had got to about page 96. Yeah, that's a healthy amount. I mean, I don't know how long the book was, but almost 100 pages, I figure, is a healthy amount of leash line for the reader to be able to figure out what the author's doing. And if not, like, he gave him a fair chance. I agree. Yeah. JC, right. Shannon agrees with JC about learning from the books. Okay. Anita says, I'm careful about what I read, but I would DNF if I hated something. Also, in a coincidence, just added DNF merch. Aha! So I was just mentioning Anita's merch, and she has some DNF merch. I don't think I've seen that design, so I'll have to check it out afterwards. Angela says, I try not to, but depends on if I'm researching versus reading. And with reading, if I really don't like the direction or the style doesn't suit me, or too many errors, problems, I will give up. Yeah, researching is a good point to bring up. when I'm researching and I want to put it down, oh, I've definitely done this. Sometimes I'll skip around. Sometimes I'll just put a bookmark in it and put it back on the shelf. Like I did that with the Teddy Roosevelt biography. It was like part of his life was interesting, and then it sort of went off. And I was like, nah. Bleh. So I just put it back on the shelf. Yeah. Does it need to have a link? It's not. It's Small Business Saturday, Shannon. Giving Tuesday. Cyber Monday is over. Yeah, it's complicated, but yeah, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Small Business Saturday. There's nothing on Sunday. Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday, where a lot of people get out their charitable donations campaigns for the end of the year. So yeah, marketing. Marketing hat. Whoa, there's more. Okay. Hey, Nia's here. Welcome, welcome. Rarely DNFs, but yes. And here's the DNF pin. It's on a variety of products though. So she just gave one as an example, but you take one design and you could put it on a lot of products, which is fun. Yay! She got the t-shirt. Been there, got the t-shirt. I'm on a t-shirt kick right now. Shannon says, give me all the AuthorTube t-shirts. That's cute. Mama Maggie said something about supporting small businesses today. Don't know the actual celebrations. Oh, well, she's always about supporting indies and small businesses. So that's great. That's good. Okay, so let's speed right along here as we're a quarter of the way through, but not a quarter way through the questions. Number 4 is, do you like to read challenging books? If yes, what draws you to them? If not, why do you avoid them? Okay, so my notes, yes, because I feel more a part of a conversation when I grapple with the topic and form new neural pathways and reframe my conceptions. So this will depend on what you consider challenging, right? And this is part of why that audiobook I was listening to and set aside for now is so fascinating. It's by George Lakoff, and it's called Whose Freedom? And he's a cognitive scientist and linguistic, what's the noun? Linguist, there we go. That's funny that's the word that I couldn't think of. And he's talking about the definition of freedom and what it meant when the country was formed, and how basically you're like freedom from and freedom to. There's that discussion with FDR's speech that sort of is a watershed. But there's also all the like words that are in the definition, and how if you unpack those, the definition of those has changed. And so this is how we've drifted from freedom, meaning one thing, to another. So on that subject, challenging books. Oh, hold on. Let me just make a note about the talk amongst yourselves. I need to make a note about my references here. So take it and okay. Challenging. So I would say the challenging reads for me involve lots of violence or really dense subject matter, often scientific things or political things, like reading Antitrust. Ooh, the second half of that book was hard. So those are 2 categories. Another one is like grief or just things that you need trigger warnings for in general, like people going through stuff that is traumatic. And if it matches with one of your past experiences, that can be really hard, right? So I do like to read them. If it's new information that I'm trying to incorporate into my frame, my worldview, that can take a lot of time. And so it's a slower read, but I try to think through things in between. So, for example, I'm reading this lovely tome at the moment, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. If you've been on the channel for a while, you know that I've had this and I've been saving it because I know I will love this book. I know it's going to be a 5-star book, and I'm only like 20%, 30% of the way through. And every chapter is like a jewel. It's good. So I'm trying to read it slowly so that I can like fold in. It's like egg whites, right? You're going to fold the eggs back in. You're not going to like whip it because that'll ruin it and scramble your brain. It's like folding. If anyone knows that. Is that How I Met Your Mother? That meme about folding? Barrett will know. Barrett will know that one. I don't know what sitcom it's from. I've just heard it as an audio on TikTok, so forgive me. Let's see. Ooh. Shannon says, I'm curious on what you think was challenging. Yeah, Shannon trying to decipher old and middle Irish texts after self-teaching myself the language. Oh, challenging. That's incredible. It's like extra credit points for like learning the language to get the information for sure. Anita, I like books with challenging ideas. Yeah. Trying to decode economic texts like the stock market, way too challenging for me. Sometimes I can't do it either. Sometimes it's a DNF for me. Yep. Mia says, sometimes depends on the challenge. I read for relaxation and enjoyment. So if it's an interesting history book, for example, then yes. If it's depressing, then no. Yeah. 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 I agree. I also like books that offer challenging viewpoints and ideas. That's another question coming up. So we'll like split that apart a little bit to tease it apart. Rachel says, in theory, yes. In reality, it doesn't happen often. Oh, I get that. You know, you intend to do something. Your principles say that you want to be open-minded, but, you know, you keep reaching for that same comfort. Yeah, pick. I get it. Nia says, if it's depressing but important, I'd rather read an article or a short essay over a whole book. Yes. Those are often harder to find. Are they harder to find or... Okay, so that depends on your personal habits, I think. So I have lots of books that I can read at home, right? So if I'm searching out a topic and I go online and I'm looking for a blog article or, you know, an essay, a short form, that'll come up in search results pretty easily. But is there a paywall? You know, yeah, I don't know. There are some publications like the New Yorker that have great essays on stuff, but you have to pay. What's the other one that I always get to see links to? It's like American something. Anyway, they have paywalls. And so sometimes like the most concise short essay on something might not be available to you. So you have to go through like the rambling whole book this person wrote on the subject that's available through the library, that sort of thing. But yeah. Oh, the paywalls. Yeah. Yeah. So challenging books. I think it's a yes for this crowd. I like it. We're good. We're good. The next question, number 5. Do you read books that have been banned by local authorities? And there's oh no, that was it. And I said no, because my books are usually dusty classics. Oh, no. I read this wrong. My note says no, because they're usually dusty classics or children's books. So whenever we have a readathon here on BookTube that is about banned books to support divergent ideas and challenging notions in books, things like that, I look at the list and I'm like, I read like 2 of those in school and I'm not interested in any of the other ones. So I don't, none of them pull me. So, and I don't read children's books. So, dusty classics or children's books. And those seem to be the areas that people pinpoint for banning. You know, maybe there's a new flurry of banned books that I can find some good ones on, but the stuff that I feel pulled to read that might be banned, like, I don't know, CRT stuff or sociology stuff, it's not banned where I am. I don't know. Maybe I'm taking too narrow of a view on this one, but I want to participate, and then I look at the list and I'm like, but I don't want to read any of those. Like, oh, maybe I'm just being lazy. Shannon says, I don't pay attention to what the authorities say about banned books. I'll read them regardless if they sound interesting. Right. I just never stumble into any that are banned. So And JC says, I think I've read all the books that they are now banning, but I would never shy away from reading a book that is banned. It might make me read it more. Exactly. Although you might have seen that there was a Twitter thread a few weeks back about banning books does not help sales. So there might be a common anecdotal understanding that when your book is on a banned list, like the people who don't believe in the ban or don't think it is right would go out and buy that book. But it is not proving to be the case writ large, right? So financially, the artists whose books are banned are seeing like cuts in sales because institutions that are often making up a good portion of their sales are like, too risky. This is banning it. That's not banning it. Like it's too risky for us to get a whole bunch of copies. So they would lose out on all those sales. So yeah, just a note to like maybe support the banned books if you find ones that light your fire, right? Yeah, I read what I want. I ignore banned lists. Yes. Anita says, I don't pay attention to banned book lists either, so I may have read some. There you go. Rachel, no, because my community is more open-minded, especially in the public library. I've tried reading books from the ALA banned book lists. Oh, I see. So no, you don't read books that have been banned because your community doesn't ban them. But you look at the other lists and like you do have books that are on other districts' banned book lists. Got it. That's good. Do you see? Oh, Shannon, they announce a new list of banned books like every month or so. Jim says Bookish Realm does some interesting videos on banned books. Yes. So Bookish Realm is a channel that has a librarian who is fantastic with bringing the recommendations for children's books and middle grade books. And especially those are the ones that people are targeting for banning. So yeah, I love her chats about issues and sort of the social media space and what people are doing. I'm less interested in the children's books because I don't read them. But yeah, she does a great service. Shan says, oh, wow, I can't believe it's so serious. Maybe I'm just misguided. I always wondered if I might feel differently if I had girls instead of boys for my kiddos. Huh. Interesting. JC says, I think you might not notice because you know how ridiculous it is to ban some of the books they're banning. Right. Agree. Okay, let's pop up number 6. I think we've got 15 total, so we're almost halfway. Number 6, do you read books by authors whose views you disagree with? So I think this is the one that Shannon was like starting to talk about different views. My note says, controversial, not often, since views I disagree with enough to care about is a small enough category that I don't want to support the ideas or livelihoods of those people, so that they can go on perpetuating what I consider to be detrimental to human progress and viability. So that is my verbose notations to say authors whose views I disagree with. I mean, this is a huge discussion, and this is just one question on a book tag, but there's the separate the art from the artist argument, which is the art may be great and the artist may be seriously flawed, and if you can separate them and appreciate the art but not condone the artist, that is the line where some people draw the line. But there's a separate thing, which is like, do you risk? Do you take the time? I mean, there are lots of books in the world, right? So I always come back to the fact that you get to choose what you read. And if you choose to read something that is by someone who is involved in a controversy, who has done some bad things, who is out there flogging for causes that you disagree with, that you think deny people's humanity, why would you choose that? Choose a different book. You know, if you're feeling peer pressure to read a popular book, okay, I'm too old for that. So at this moment, I guess. Maybe it'll change again. Who knows? But I just think there's so many books and there's so many people who are trying to do good in the world and like encourage love and respect and civil discussion that like support them, like it's the simplest thing. That's my controversial view. It sounds like I am being closed-minded in that view, but like I said, it's a small pool of issues that I care about enough to keep my eye on any chatter in the media about authors. And I could be reading things by authors that have done bad things I just don't know about. But, I'm not going to scan every book for problematical things. It's just as I take it, So, yeah. That is number 6. Richard came in. Hello, Richard. JC said they banned Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, and To Kill a Mockingbird. Okay, so who loves Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry? Someone loves that book, and I can't remember now. It's someone that I've talked with. It'll come back to me later. And To Kill a Mockingbird, one of the dusty classics that I read in school, right? It's silly. I love the book. And not only because I resembled Scout as a little kid with my bowl cut. So. Richard says, this looks spicy. No. Richard says no. Richard's joining me in the no category. Nice. JC asks, does reading a book about a person I disagree with written by a person who is basically outing them for the trash they were count? Okay, hold on. Let me read this in my head. Oh, I think this is like the book by Mary Trump. Is that right? Clear. For me, that's clear. Go right ahead. Because then you're getting information about something that might be important from a source that you trust. Like, to me, that makes sense. So. Richard saying that I went through a bit of an separating Ender's Game, a great book, from its reprehensibly shitty author. Yeah. I actually read Ender's Game as a high school book, like in class. And so we had no idea back then in the 90s, anything about authors, and it was a different world, right? And I remember loving the book, and it was such a great setup and everything. And then hearing much, much later in the writing world about what's the space, and deciding, I don't need to go back to that. I mean, the Book of the Dead and the sequels and stuff, they sounded interesting, but not enough, All right. So we had nobody mention, and so I won't put that up on the screen. Good. Shannon says, I've tried. Hold on. Sorry if hearing someone drinking is annoying. I am having trouble. I've tried to read those with views I don't agree with, but often get upset, especially with anything sexist, racist, etc. Yeah, and then why put yourself through that? It's kind of like sometimes you have to put on armor and do battle in public spaces to stand up for rights, and why would you do that in your pleasure time if you're reading for fun? Or reading a challenging book even. Read a challenge that's not directed at you, I would say. I don't know if that makes sense. Shannon says, however, I like those that offer a different perspective that isn't harmful to anyone for just being human. Yeah. On a serious note, Richard says, I think it's a good point. Don't be peer pressure to make decisions on your own values and not just because the crowd is moving. Yeah, that's called stampede, right? You don't want to be in the middle of that. What books you read and enjoy should be very personal to you. Yeah. JC, okay, with that clarification, it depends. If that person is a good enough writer, I can definitely separate the art from the person. Right. Got you. Okay, so if they write about the subject well, then there's enough distance between the subject of the book and you, the reader of the information. I think I got that right. And I agree. Yeah. Anita says, it would depend on the view I disagreed with. If it was a harmful viewpoint, then I would avoid their books. If they decried mint chocolate chip ice cream, then no. Right. Exactly. The small pool I said that I really care about. Yes. Thank you, Cachet. She loves Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, and all the sequels. So yeah, That's what I missed in middle school. I know it was there in the library, but I didn't pick it up. I should read it one of these days. It's like a return to childhood moment. I think it would be really good. Richard loves the term dusty classics. Yes. Yes. Good way to put it, Anita. I was trying to think of something like that. If the different viewpoint is on what food is best for Thanksgiving, then not an issue. Unless JC is in the chat, right? Are we right? And Richard. Oh God. Okay. We're not going to start this again. Yes. No, it does not, Richard. JC, that was, yes, it was that book. Sometimes YouTube doesn't like when we say you know whose name, so I don't want your channel dinged. Oh, I'm fine. I don't say, I usually say 45, but you know, Mary, it's Mary, right? I think she's pretty awesome, so. Yes. Raspberry ripple over mint chocolate chip. Tutti Frutti. I don't know what raspberry ripple is. Does it have chocolate in it? If not, I'm not interested. Yes. Okay. Thank you. You described it so well. I knew exactly which book you were talking about. What's wrong with that picture? All right. So we're done with 6, 7, and halfway. Let me look at the notes. Do you clear your mind of preconceptions and biases before you start a new book? Or do you go in with axes to grind? And to me, this question had an axe to grind, so I won't mention who put it in there. But you know, it's a reviewer, and that's fine to discuss what is an axe to grind. I said, since it's impossible to clear your mind of preconceptions because we all have implicit bias. Yes, we do. I suppose I am grinding my axe in the most direct sense of the metaphor. I'm sharpening my tools against the stone of another story. How do you like that? Because, you know, axe grinding is actually to sharpen the axe, and, you know, it makes sense. It makes sense to me. What do you guys think? Yeah. And I haven't read it, but I would if I wanted to read like celebrity biographies. Oh, okay. Again, so many ice cream flavors. Why settle? This question is preconception-ception? Is it like Inception? So basically, it's Steve Donoghue. He was asking, do you try to clear your mind of what you know about the author, what you've heard about the story from the back copy, what you've heard from other reviewers? Do you try to go into a book with like a clear mind of, I could like this, I could not, I'm going to not be biased? And I don't think you can really do that. I think you can't get rid of feelings that you've got about something. They're just there. They're valid. Like, you're just going to deny them and like wipe clean your brain. I don't think that happens with people. So, yeah. Anita says, I go into a book expecting an entertaining read. Right. I expect coherence. If you got it out, if you published, if it's in a market and it has a cover that is appealing enough that I took you up on your offer, like, I expect coherence, you know? Some of the books I read are not entertaining. I mean, I've read congressional testimonies. I read nonfiction by politicians. It runs the gamut. But yeah, coherence, I think, is my watchword. There we go. Shannon says, interesting question that melds with the previous one. Older male fantasy authors tend to inaccurately portray female characters. And not just fantasy, sometimes romance too. Or thrillers. Oh my God, thrillers. But this, yeah, if you're talking about the clear your mind of biases, I don't know if this fits. This sounds like it's more the writer writing the book rather than the reader. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. Sorry. I try to remember who does that before going into read, but it's been stopping me lately. Oh, knowing who doesn't write women characters well. Oh, okay. So JC's recommending the Mary Trump book. It gives so much insight into why 45 is the way he is, to the point neither his mother nor father gave him enough love as a child. Like, seriously. Yeah. You know, it's funny. We've developed this, like, what do you call it? Not knee-jerk. I guess knee-jerk might work. Knee-jerk reaction, that's a pat phrase. It's comment is too long. There we go. That's kind of funny. You'll see it in GIFs. You'll see it in social media spaces. Like when someone does say something terrible, you turn around and say, who hurt you? And there's a lot to unpack in that comic aside, right? Because what we're doing is we're acknowledging that you did a terrible thing. You said something that is not acceptable. And so we're attributing that to past trauma. And then we're making a joke about it because that's how we deal with things. And it doesn't excuse it, but it's an interesting approach is all I'll say. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I don't think I go into any particular book with a bias. At least I'm not aware of it. If I do. Not a controversy. It's Jif like the peanut butter, Richard. It's my channel. Yeah. So, yeah, I implicit bias. I recognize that as a fact. So that's my answer for that one. We're halfway through. If you haven't liked the video, like now. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe now. I want to say something like you'll get this prize and 2 prizes for the low price of $49.99 for 4 months, but I don't have the Robin Williams talent to do that, so this is all you get. Thank you. All right, so our next question, do you recommend books? It's also Steve Donoghue. Do you recommend books if you end up really liking them? If so, what form does that recommendation take? Yes, of course I recommend books. I have a whole channel for this, right? I can recommend books on a train, in a plane, by a lake, with a steak, in a crowd, when it's loud, under rain, in Spain, but mostly on YouTube, Storygraph, Twitter, and Instagram. So, yeah, and it's for the books that I really like. It's for 3, 4, 5 stars. And again, like Rachel said, if I don't like it or didn't jive with it or didn't finish it, I just sort of say who it might be for, maybe like one major problem that made me put it down that someone else may like. So like the generous version, and then just move on to the things that are positive. That's sort of my channel approach. What about you guys? Yeah, that's my little advertisement. I loved Robin Williams as the genie in Aladdin, and so a lot of those lines go through my head every day. Like, we'll also make julienne fries. It will not break. It broke. Like, I don't know. They just cycle through. You know, you never know what'll come out. Okay, so for recommendations, yes, Shannon, for books I like, which I'll recommend for the reasons that I liked them. Right, pretty straightforward. Yes, Anita recommends books she loves. JC will recommend a book, but Lord help me if they ask me to sum up the book for them. That's what synopses are for. That's what authors are supposed to do, or pay someone to do, right? Yeah, I get it. So yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty easy question for most booktubers because that's what we do here, right? Unless, I don't know, maybe there's a channel that doesn't recommend books. It only rants about books. Who knows? It takes all sorts these days. All right, so rounding the base for number 9, what was the last book you recommended? Was there a specific reason for that book? Do people come to you regularly for book recommendations? So yes, the last book I recommended was actually What is the What? By Dave Eggers. I went through my 5 stars. I was like, I had a person in mind. I was going through and like picking a few. I gave them a choice of 3 with like disguised, you know, like fingers behind your back. And they picked the number that worked with this one. The reason I like What is the What? I'm not a huge Dave Eggers fan. I haven't read all of his work. I know he's pretty famous and has written a lot. But I haven't read much of his work. But this one I read maybe for book club back in DC, and it was the experience of a Somali coming to America in the 90s, and like the immigration experience and then just like relationships and his struggle. And it was really, really touching. And I remember I took a couple photocopies back in the day. I was telling you, it's back in the day. Photocopies that I saved in my like collage pile of papers. And I would put them up, like the quotes that I liked every once in a while to remind me, because they really resonated. So that was a very close to my heart book recommendation. Was there a specific reason for that book? Yes. Do people come to you regularly for book recommendations? Well, there's 723 of you that come here regularly. I mean, not really. They're subscribers, but they're not watchers. Hopefully they'll be watchers pretty soon and we'll work our way up, right? So yeah. It's hard to see follow-up. So the next question is about follow-up, and so we'll get into that in a second. But about question 9, we've got a bot. Oh boy. Can I do it from here? Last time I tried to block, an error occurred. Try refreshing the page. Not while I'm live, StreamYard. Okay, so if you hold on. Richard Holiday, Shannon Houston. Thank you. Okay, you guys took care of it. So back to question 9, The Marionettes by Katie Wismer. I was just looking at her channel. She just came out with a new book and did her wrap up on it. I was like, wait, why is that name right on the top of my mind? I recommended it to Nia, and because it was off the charts amazing, and I don't say that about many books. Really? It's a series, right? It's a trilogy, I think. Katie Wismer just did a video about her latest book, which might be a different series, but she did mention the Marionettes several times because she was comparing her launch sort of results and feedback and what had gone right and wrong to previous launches. She's on book 8. And I just wrote a comment and I said, that's very brave. And I wanted to tag Shannon, but my handle tagging is not working in comments. If it's working for you, let me know what I'm doing wrong. It works in descriptions. It does not work in comments, but it used to. So tell me what I'm doing wrong. I got to wrap it up. I'm going to go over the hour. So yeah, I'm very interested. I was subscribed to her channel, but I hadn't seen anything from her in a long time. So this is a great recommendation. Thank you, JC. Shannon recommended Nina K. Westroff for the romantic fantasy and writing style. Don't think people will come to me for book recommendations, though. Not what I'm known for in any space. Yeah. You choose your brand, and you've only got a limited amount of areas to focus on, for sure. We like what you are known for, Shannon, so don't let that feel like a lack. Anita says, the last book I recommended was The Alchemy of Sorrow, fantasy anthology, because it was awesome. Also, a few stories made me cry. Ooh, Alchemy of Sorrow. I don't think I remember that one from you. I will Google that on a tab. Later. M.L. Wang and Virginia McLean editors. Cool. Thank you. Off the charts. Yeah, I got it. Thank you, JC, Richard. Well done. Trilogy. Marionettes, Wicked Souls, and Bloodless Ties. Oh, Bloodless Ties is the new release. That rings a bell. Yes. Yay. Richard, on the subject of recommending books. See, I love this. Positivity. Chris Kenny's new cyberpunk thriller, Proto, is now out. Yes, I just saw that. I think Barrett retweeted, and I was like, yay, I retweeted too. Very cool. JC says, actually, take that back. It was meant to be a trilogy when she wrote the first book, but she's writing a 4th one that's going to be called Ruthless Ends. Ooh, okay, I missed that. Nice. Well, you go with what works, right? Why not? I was very impressed by her numbers. She's in week 2 and she's got 160 reviews, and I'm like, oh, how? But she's selling, thousands, so that makes sense. I'm happy with my percentage. I just need to get the base number up. Yeah. Guys, my reviewers are killing it. Okay, so we're done with 9. Question 10. what book have you had the most success in recommending? And, I have very little data on this because people don't normally report back to me when they read something or check something out that I recommended. So it's hard to measure or record. But I also usually use my bookshop link when I put up a new video. So I'll just drop that into the chat now for convenience. And I have curated book lists. So if you go now, I think the ones at the top are, of course, I don't have it pulled up. Ones at the top are Patreon book club reads, 5-star recommendations, recommended for writers because it's nano, most anticipated new releases this year and next year, nature memoirs. So, I sort of create a list if you're interested in a certain topic. You can see a whole bunch that I have liked and rated well and really loved. So that is in the chat for anyone's delectation. There we go. And so this was a way that I could actually see if there were any titles that went out. So I went into the ones that people had bought through my link, which is awesome. Thank you, anyone who's gone to Bookshop and bought through my link. That's amazing. Bookshop.org, in case you don't know, provides an alternative to Amazon. It's almost all the books that you would find on Amazon, but if you don't specify a certain link, like a referrer, then it goes to indie bookstores. They hand it out at the end of the year to indie bookstores in a fund, which is amazing. So I love bookshop.org and support them any chance I can get. So that's why you go through them and use my curated list to find something you like. I looked at those and there was only one book that repeated twice, and it was The Tainted by Kavri Madhavan, which was my buddy read in March with Maria from MH Books. And it is a historical fiction that is set in 1920s and 1970s and reflects upon the British Empire in India and the overlapping loyalties between Anglo-Irish and English people in the empire hinterlands, and then goes through a couple generations later in the 70s what happened to those people and how the conflicts from then resolved. And it was really good. We had a good time. But that's the one that's been bought twice. Some of the other ones that people bought on my recommendation were Story of the 100 Promises, which I have yet to read, but it's by a friend and I've heard amazing things. So I'm very excited to read that one. It's over there. I brought it with me. The Electricity of Every Living Thing by Catherine May. Transcendent Kingdom, Fox and I, Spirit Things, also by a friend, also amazing. Orchard, the book about naturalists in England, by, it's not by the New Forest, Buckinghamshire, I can't remember where it's by. It's called England's Eden, and it's somewhere in the south, yeah. And Outfront the Following Sea. So success, I guess, for those books. But yeah. I don't know what that question is about, Shannon. Please clarify. Oh, okay. So Anita's most successful book recommendation has been A Bond of Thread. Got at least 2 people to read it. Yay! I haven't been on the e-reader for a while, so I'm stopped. I need to go back. I did another little bit, but yeah, it's a longer book. I'll go back to it. Shannon says, I recommended M.K. Williams' book Going Wide a month ago and passed on that info to the author. And she said 2 people bought the book after my recommendation. So I think that counts for tracking. Well done. God, it is so hard to track word of mouth marketing, right? So well done. Well done on that one. Yeah. I thought it might be Jacqueline Winspear because I have banged on about Maisie Dobbs in that series. I know my mom picked it up, but not through my link. Thanks, Mom. And I think maybe one other person picked it up on BookTube that I saw. But yeah, if you don't tag the people who recommend things to you, they might not see it. One of the cool things, like a little hack on Storygraph that I've done, is when I put something on, when I tag it so that it's reachable and rememberable on Storygraph, I tag it with the person who recommended it And if I hear about it again as a recommendation, I add that person's tag so that when I finally get to reading it and I review it on my channel, I can shout out those people who helped push, who helped nudge me towards that reading experience, especially if I like it. So that's like reaching back to, I don't know, gratitude for people who are passing on good reads, right? Oh, there we go. Anita says, I bought Macy Dobbs off your recommendation. There we go. There's another one. Okay, so that's tied with the Tainted. Jim read the latest Jacqueline Winspear, which was The Sunlit Weapon, which I haven't read yet because, I want these. I want to keep these books, but sometimes I have to get them from the library. I can't remember why I didn't check it out. I've seen it in bookstores, but I'm not paying $26 for hardcover. Not the book, the series. Yeah, that's the same thing. Yeah, yay. I can call myself an influencer now. Oh, and if you've tried to be in the social media scene, you know how funny that is. So yeah, excellent. Well, thank you guys for telling me. That's nice to know, like, where the recommendations went out into cyberspace. Okay, 11. Do you take notes or annotate while you read? If so, what form does it take? Not much anymore. So if you had looked at my textbooks in high school, especially my U.S. history book, I remember particularly that one was covered pink, yellow, green, and blue. And I highlighted the shit out of that book. It helped me remember. I still remember dates from U.S. history, AP U.S. history in high school, but I no longer do that to books. Currently, my style is to put Post-it notes, like little tags in there. With Braiding Sweetgrass, since I know I'm going to be coming back to it again and again, there's a few pages where I've just put like a pencil line around a quote. So if I go back, I'll see it, but it's not going to be like a flag. I don't know. It's such a quiet, powerful book. Oh, so good. And need I mention, Nonfiction November, Skoden 2022, all the readathons. It works for both. So yeah, it's just fantastic. Yeah, so just Post-its, especially because I had an older book that I put Post-its on, and now I'm wary with older books because was it an older book or was it an older Post-it note? Sometimes I read old paper supplies and the Post-it note stickiness is not all that could be desired, so it left a residue and like tore the pages, and that was unfortunate. But it was my book, so at least I don't do that to library books. So yeah, we're not going to talk about dog earring. Let's see, annotating. Let's see if that's a hot topic. I only take notes on nonfiction works and on the Tuber Book Club books, usually notes written directly in the text. There you go. Because you like getting the paperback, and that allows you to do that. I think you've got a friend in the chat who enjoys that as well. JC says, no, note-taking and annotating takes the fun out of reading for me. Plus, I don't dare defile the books. Yeah. Yeah. It takes you back to like U.S. history class. Am I right? It's fine. I liked it, but not everyone would. Anita says, no notes for me. If I'm doing a review, I might jot down thoughts in a first draft. Oh, if you're going to do a formal review. That sounds good. Jim has a book journal. He might make notes in it to highlight a lot of passages from ebooks and show them on Goodreads. Oh, interesting. I haven't seen that. I don't spend a lot of time on Goodreads, so that seems like a good way to memorialize it if you're still on Goodreads. But yeah, you've shown your book journal in vlogs, and it's only like one line for most things because you have like title, author, star rating maybe. I can't remember what you put in there, one line. But maybe it means that like it's a breakout favorite if you're taking notes or you really hated it. Who knows? Shannon says, okay, taking you with me on the phone as I drive to go get my kiddo from chorus practice. Ooh, chorus. That sounds fun. Be safe. Yep, always. Nia only takes notes if I need to for a review or study, and I use note tabs that do no damage. Yeah. I thought I was good, and I realized that they were sticking, and it was bad. It was sad. It's okay. What's done is done. All right, question 12. Do you shush, eye roll, or give the hand? That's what this is, in case anyone doesn't know, like putting the hand in your face to anyone who interrupts your reading. And my answer to this, there is no one to do so. I just laugh at Bean trying to sit on my book because that's the only interruption that I usually encounter. He's curled up with his hand over his face right now on the bed, so he's not interrupting any of this, which is good because this is like a tech setup that might suffer from interruption. But yeah, normally I live alone. I read in my own space. There's no one else to interrupt it, so there's no call for me to get salty about interrupting. But for all you moms out there, or people with people in your house, like I'm sure this is a more pertinent question. Let's see. Yeah, test them first. Well, now I know, Nia. Now I know. Nia says they get the hand up. Yeah. Nia, again, someone around other people in the house. Yep. JC, yes. OMG. Every time my daughter wants to have a full-blown conversation with me, I am reading. And I'm like, you do see the book in my hand, don't you? No. There's a lot of great TikToks on this. This is a good trend when people take some sound and like, I'm reading. Like, what are you doing? There's some pretty funny ones. Anita says, no one here to interrupt either, but if there was, I'd give them the glare. Right. But no, seriously, I do put the book down and talk to the kid, but still, especially when they're a grown-ass kid. That's like space, boundaries, learning, growing up. That's a thing. It is a thing. I get it. Yeah. Shush. What was it? Shush, eye roll, or give the hand to anyone. I'd never shush someone if I was reading. I feel like I'd be very good in a librarian role where I was shushing other people who were talking and interfering with the library atmosphere. Eye roll doesn't seem appropriate. I like to wield or dispense with the eye roll in specific situations, and interrupting my reading is not one, I guess. The glare is a better option for that, I think. Yeah. So that's fun. Let's go to number 13. There's 15 questions, guys. We're almost there. Did someone or something inspire you to be a reader? If yes, tell us about it. So like I've said before, I have like this floating fog that just sort of follows and consumes the memories that are most far away from me in time. So I don't remember a lot of childhood. I don't remember learning to read. So a lot of these book tags where you talk about how you grew up and what inspired you in your first books, I'm like, I mean, I have some books, but I don't know what I'm missing, and I don't know how I learned to read. It's just there. But I did think about sort of being a lover of books, right? Because that's sort of above and beyond doing your schoolwork, reading things from time to time. What inspired me to read over a gross of books a year at this point in my life? And I think it was because the stories that first really inspired me were on the stage. And we had season tickets as a kid to go down to the town where my grandparents lived, like 40 minutes away, and go to see a play like every 2 months or so. And I was exposed to a lot of things way out of my ken, way out of my comfort zone. I remember the third one that I saw was A Man for All Seasons. I had no idea what was going on, but the drama and the body language and the emotion and all that storytelling palaver, all those tools that they were using on the stage to tell the story just made it so exciting. And I think PCPA, Pacific Conservatory for Performing Arts, that community college in Santa Maria, is responsible for a good portion of my love of reading, because that's the feeling that I want to inspire. That's the feeling that I want to have when I read a book. So yeah, maybe reading and writing. But They are also who inspired me to, like JC, want to be a Broadway actress when I grew up, but I don't even know how that went. But yeah, so how about you guys? A couple more. Shannon's letting us know, by the way, you can sell books directly on TikTok now. You might have to have a certain amount of followers to do that. I don't know. Last time I was on, I just looked into switching to a business account so I could do some things for the Blaze and some things for mine. So the link in the bio was limited before. I'll have to go back and look. Yeah. Okay, Anita says no inspiration, just read books because I love them. Yeah, good deal. Oh, JC's bringing in Reading Rainbow. The show made me passionate about reading and is the reason I am the reader and storyteller I am today. Oh, I guess I have LeVar Burton to thank. Wait, what's he doing now? There was that whole kerfuffle about Jeopardy, but then he ended up doing something cooler. Do you remember what his project is? He has like a... What is it? It's not a game show, but it's a TV show. He's on TV for something. I can't remember. But yeah, LeVar Burton. For Reading Rainbow, but also for Star Trek. Right? Same time frame. Multi-talented people can inspire in multiple ways. But yeah, that's just me. Question 14. We're almost to my question. This is Dia's question. What perspective do you prefer to read in? First person, second person, etc. Is there a perspective that's an automatic DNF? And my answer to this is pretty simple. I don't approach story in terms of perspective. It's more of a holistic thing. You can do many different perspectives in different ways that would make me like or dislike them. So it's not the determining factor. But I would say that generally I read and enjoy third person more, but the less prevalent POVs can also be done well. And I have enjoyed, it's just novel. So you kind of have to prove yourself more because you are making a riskier choice because there's like the mainstream and then outside the mainstream. So I feel like it's harder to do well. Second person. And first person, you gotta like the character. I don't know that I've read a morally gray or like a unlikable protagonist where it's first person. That would be hard. If you have a recommendation for that, all of you lovely readers out there, let me know. I'd love to try that and just see how it felt to read it because that's an interesting position to be in. One that their publisher, I'm sure, discouraged because it's not a great selling point. But I don't know. Okay, let's hop into the chat again. Yay, love Reading Rainbow. Shannon came out in news today about TikTok. Oh, to everybody? Well, that's interesting. Okay, well, that may pull me over there even more, right? Morgan saying hello. Hello, Morgan. JC says he has a lot of projects going on right now. I know he has a podcast where he reads adult books. Podcast. I know there's something where I saw his face on TV lately, so I'll have to check it out afterwards. But yeah, support LeVar. Anita, I don't have a preference in POV. Hellos. JC says to read in, it doesn't matter to me as long as you don't lose me in the story. Yeah, getting confusing is definitely the determining factor for whether I dislike it, right? Morgan says, I don't mind reading in any perspective. I like them all. Maybe it's a we. Okay, has anyone read a book with we, like the first person plural? Because I think Women Talking by Miriam Taves might be in this, and I've never read one with that. I have the book, I didn't bring it with me. But that would be an interesting experiment. If anyone wants to do a perspective experiment, buddy read in the new year, let me know. That'd be good. Jim says, Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead had an unreliable narrator, first person, but I loved it. Unreliable. Well, our read for August, the Women in Translation that's by the Hungarian that I'm blanking on right now, That was rough. Like, we all had a hard time reading that one because we wanted to throttle the narrator. She was unreliable, but she was also very frustrating. So it was very interesting, and it was good that I could discuss it with people. But if I had read that on my own, I would have been like, at the end, no thank you. You know, it's so claustrophobic and it's so unlikable, which is different from unreliable, I understand, but yeah, interesting. But this is a book that's on my wish list, so yeah, we'll see if I get to it. Oh, and he's pointing out We the Drowned was my favorite book of last year. Does that also have a different viewpoint? Did I skip one? No, I don't see it. Oh, We the Drowned. It's in the title, Margaret. Okay. So that would be first person plural. That's right. That is also on my wish list with your name on the tag, Jim. So yeah, credit where credit's due. All right. So that was Dea's question. And then my question, and I'll just stick in here, I'm tagging Colleen Delaney. I just watched a video of hers. I think I've been subscribed for a little while, but she reviewed cozy books to read for the fall, winter, and she went through several categories. There's a mystery, there's romance, there's fantasy, there's historical, and I was like, there was something in every one. I was like, oh my god, I found someone who has the same preferences. I was very excited, so I thought I'd tag her to see like if our preferences translate into reading rules, because it's different. It's like a different part of the brain. I can get like, maybe it's different, so I'd love to hear her answers to these. So for the final question, the one that I put in, does it stay or does it go? And you know, I'm referencing a song here, of course. And where does it go? So how do you maintain your collection, your library, your books, right? When you finish reading, does it stay or does it go? And where does it go? That's my question. I think this is interesting because your values come into play. It's kind of like unpacking the language question. If I have a book physically, obviously library goes back to library, borrowed books go back to the borrowers, the lenders. But if I have bought a book, often it's used, and I recycle it back into that environment, right? As an author, I know that used books don't generate income for the author, but you get a review, you get exposure, and my budget is for used books at this point, for big, high-profile authors, right? So that doesn't bother me. When it goes back out, here's my list. Here's my list before I forget. If I DNF, here's the first one. If I DNF, a select few of those DNFs get in a second chance limbo pile, right? So that's the one I trip on whenever I go from the bed to the bookcase. That's the limbo pile. There's like 5 books. They're ones that I either want to reread or pick up again, or reread before I decide if I'm going to get rid of them, right? So that's just a select few. Many, my notes are not great on this one. Many books read, if I won't want to reread, get taken to the used bookstore for resale. This is the majority, right? I go like once a month and I take like a dozen books. And so I resell them and I get credit at the used bookstore, Backstory Books. Amanda is amazing. She's a bookstore owner there. And I get credit and we're all happy and I can pick up a few books, right? It's the circle of life. A select few get put aside as passing on to specific friends. I think that's for passing on to specific friends. Also, periodic culling results in more resale. So occasionally I'll go through it. I'm like, I've been staring at this book. It's been on my supposed to read for 3 months and I haven't picked it up. So obviously it's not its time. I gotta let it go. So that'll go in the bag for resale as well. If it's not wanted at the used bookstore and like Amanda can't take it because she doesn't think she can sell it, I bequeath it to the thrift store. And so maybe it'll find an audience there. Maybe twice in my life, I have the last category where I've trashed, binned Richard, or recycled books when I hear something about the living author that I don't want to recycle back out into the world. So that touches a little on the earlier questions about opinions and views and stuff. I sort of delightedly did this with Bill Bryson, because a Book Olive, who runs Nonfiction November, had read like all of his books, and she was like, he's so condescending. He hasn't learned. He's gone through his whole life, his whole book oeuvre, and he hasn't progressed. I'm done. And I was like, yes, I am not reading anymore, Bill Bryson. I have a check, permission slip. We're done. So I trashed it because I didn't want other people to read it. If like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just had a vindictive day. I don't know. But yeah, does it stay or does it go? And where does it go? Let's see what people have to say. Oh, LeVar Burton question. He's apparently set to host a new game show based on the board game Trivial Pursuit. Google for the win. Thank you, JC. That's fun. Oh, Trivial Pursuit can be fun. You gotta play with the right people. That's the only advice I have. Yes, thank you, Jim. I eventually got it right from the title. Nia says, I only keep my favorites. The rest are donated or given away. Interesting. That's kind of my sister's view. Yeah. Right. Anita says, I hoard my books. Oh, it's not showing. There we go. I hoard books. Not sorry. You've come to the right channel, Anita. Anita says, Nia says, I'm trying to loosen up and keep more. You do have a minimalist aesthetic, I will say. So, like, I understand, like, to be organized. I could see that would be a good habit to have. JC says, I do not like to get rid of books. However, when my shelves get so full that I'm stacking books in front of other books, then I donate the ones I've read to my library because they sell used books. That's another great piece. Like, Friends of the Library does like a semi-annual sale, and that's a great way to recycle books. But if I had a room by itself that I could turn into a library, I would never get rid of any books unless you didn't like them, right? Yeah, same. I just saw a funny tweet that was about, yeah, you may want Beast's library, but I want to, and it had a picture of the magician in Arthur, the Sword in the Stone. I want to be in one huge room where the books are everywhere so that you can't even see the floor. Yeah, that sounds good. I only ever got rid of books because hubby asked me to with all our moves in the military. Understandable. Books are heavy. For sure. Morgan says, I don't like to get rid of books. The only time I did was when people made me, like my mom. I'm still mad about it. Maybe you can get them back. You never know. It might find its way back to you, like in Serendipity. That's such a frustrating movie. Shannon says, we had a very small place in Hawaii. Yeah, like I too stack books in front, and I put the read books in the back that I've decided to keep, and all the unreads in the front. Still hot. So I'm interested in this because I'm sure people have found other methods and ways. So if you're inspired to do this tag, if you haven't done it all with me here and you're watching this later, please like tag me or let me know that you're going to respond to this question, because I'm always looking for ways to support small businesses like Backstory Books in Portland, and support the books that I love and support the authors, and not fill up landfills, although sometimes books deserve it, etc. I'd be very interested to know. Whew, we had a long one today. So, thank you for watching, for staying, for enjoying the chat so much with me. That was fantastic. I've just got a few announcements. I've got some fun things coming up for the end of the month. So the first one tomorrow is the last... Wait, 29. Today's the 29th, right? Yes. I thought yesterday was Tuesday, and I was like, Morgan, why are you streaming on a Tuesday? And then I was like, oh, cell phone. All right. So tomorrow is the last day of the month and we're going to be doing some nano sprinting. Final chance for NaNoWriMo on SD Houston's channel. So if you are available, it's 1 to 3 my time, so it's a little late for Jim, but for people in the US time zones, it should be perfect. If you want to write, if you want to read, if you want to just join us in the chat, Eva, feel free to join tomorrow on Shannon's channel. Bye, Jim. Good night. Sleep well. After that, Thursday, also on Shannon's channel, my partner and I are going to be talking about the AWC. So the announcement, because it's December 1st and applications will be opening, we're going to have a live stream to talk about our new plans for AWC, updates, news, fantastic ideas. I don't know. We'll have people in the chat. We'll have an outline and we'll entertain. That's all I can promise, right? So that's going to be on Shannon's channel on Thursday. And then on Friday, final teaser here, I'm back on my channel for First Friday Productivity Sprints. So I do First Friday and Final Friday, and it's usually right after Shannon's. So yeah, we're like hand in glove. Is that how they say? So if you're looking to get stuff done on Friday morning in the US, or Friday evening anywhere east of the Greenwich line, First Friday Productivity Sprints, you'll find me on my channel sprinting, and again, here to entertain and help you get stuff done with some company online. That is where I will be. So thank you. Like, share, subscribe, and diversify that reading list, by which I mean stretch your comfort zone. You'll find friends here to help you do it. So yeah. Yay! Morgan's excited for the AWC. I'm excited too. So on that note, I'll sign out, say thank you for joining, everybody. Thank you for watching, and I will see you somewhere soon. And I'll do the reading rainbow. There we go.